So for the tasting, we do have a sample of Scotch whiskies in varying qualities and ages in different regions, as well as still shapes, condenser types, and more. If you don't have a kit yet, head over to esips.com to get one shipped in the US. And the kit details page also gives you the ability to order any of these locally for delivery once you fall in love with them. Now, for those of you who are testing for the certification, you will have either a blind sample in your kit or you will be poured a blind sample in class. In addition to the theory questions, you will have questions specifically on the sample as part of the certification. When you're ready, open it up and answer the questions. You're going to be asked about the aromas and flavors and possible age, also the type, whether it's most likely a single malt, blended grain, blended malt, also the region where that style may dominate, and then for extra credit, you can try to guess the producer from a list provided. So best of luck and enjoy. All right, from the oldest continuously operating Highland distillery, this is constructed from at least 20 different single malts. The Chivas Regal 18 is what we're tasting. It comes to you at about $90 to $100 for $7.50. Chivas Regal is the fourth biggest seller in the world by volume. This guy's also 40% ABV. Nice and clear with like a medium gold, tending to amber on that. It's a little caramel, a little kick of vanilla, a little cherry. There's some pears, like cooked pears, and maybe a rum-soaked raisin or two as well. There's a malt character, but there's also a barley character, but there's also a grain character as well. It's a little bit light, dry on the nose. Yes, remarkably dry. Still some of the same caramel, pears, almost a little bit of apple as well. Little hint of smoke. And then almost like some hay as well. Pretty subtle, pretty gentle, very, very smooth texture, very dry as well. The finish is short to medium. It's very nice. I would give it probably a 8 out of 10, maybe a little over 8, 8.2. It's very clean, very nice, very straightforward. Not a whole ton of character. My personal appreciation rating on this would probably be a little bit lower. It's very well made. It's very clean. It's very unobtrusive, but it lacks a little bit of meatiness, a little light on the guts for me. Try this again. I'll add a little bit of water to it. Try again, see if we get anything else out of it. Now we have a clementine or like an orange. Still the little cinnamon. The pears actually got a little bit fresher here. There's a nuttiness. Actually, the finish extends a little bit longer with a little bit of dilution. It's a little bit of shortbread almost, but still pretty sweet. Still the smoke, but it's a very light, clean smoke. A little graham cracker or pie crust kind of character as well. It's a nice experience. Again, I'd probably rating it now overall with water, without water. It's probably a little bit higher rating than I gave it without the water. I'd probably give it probably 8.5, getting close to 9. 8.5 is probably a good one. And for my personal appreciation score, it's just not my style. It's a little too subtle, too smooth, a little lacking in character. So I'd probably give it about a 7.5 for my personal appreciation. But pretty well done. Worth $100 or so. That's up to you. Probably not that far out of the market, though, for somebody who wants something that's just clean and straightforward and smooth Scotch. And there's no peat showing up through here as well. It's all very clean. And now we have Ballantine's finest blended Scotch whiskey. #1 European Scotch by volume. #2 globally in the world. Blended from apparently 50 single malts and then 4 single grain whiskeys. This is also from the Chivas family, Pernod Ricard, and it's about 20 bucks for a 750, coming in at 40% ABV. We don't know very much about its provenance, and we chose this one to compare against the Chivas 18, which sits right next to it in the kit. I'll make it hot if I need to. All right, now Ballantine's finest blended Scotch. It's a pale to medium gold, tending to a little bit of amber in there as well. Definitely a little bit of cherry, spice, a little bit of wood coming through, kind of a warm wood. Definitely a fruitcake kind of character. Pretty subtle on the palate. Pretty easy drinking. Very smooth though. Has a weight to it that is not matched by any kind of weight in the flavor. With a little sugar, a little roasted sugar, a little cooked sugar like caramel, a little dried fruit. Just this faintest hint of peat or smoke and smoke. Just a little bit of phenolic lingering in the back. Tends to fall apart after a few seconds on the finish. But quite a bit going on. I actually have to say I'm a little bit I'm impressed by the complexity that's going on here. I prejudged this according to the price, that this was going to be much simpler and much harsher whiskey, and it's not. It's a decent little drinker. Let's try it with a little bit of water. Diluted, we're seeing definitely the fruit, cherries, and actually more orange now. Kind of a dry wood, not charred wood, but like sawdust wood. Almost like a candied orange peel now with a little bit of water. Fairly dry. Extends the finish a little bit with a little dilution. There's a little smoke, dried fruit. It's a, I don't know, maybe ginger, like a candied ginger. It entices you to drink more because the finish is not as good as what happens when it first hits your palate. I mean, this one was chosen to be a low dollar, expecting this to be a lot rougher. If I was going to give this a rating for, it's in the 7s, I would say, pretty handily. Between 7 and 7.5, say 7.2. I mean, again, it's not really my style, so personal rating would be pretty similar, maybe right at 7 as well. If you were to allow a value measurement into this rating, if you were allowed to say, okay, we're going to take the cost of this into consideration, then it's it's almost a 9. It's not the whiskey that the Chivas 18 is, from the same company, but is it 5 times less of a whiskey? I would say absolutely not. It's probably half the whiskey, and it's a strong contender for half. So if you were to put a value for what you get bang for the buck out of this whiskey, you would be into the 9s for sure. So quite impressive. All right. And we also have a blended malt whiskey. This is inspired by the whiskey of choice that Sir Ernest Shackleton had to accompany his 1907 expedition to the South Pole. They had 25 cases of this that went with them, the rare old Highland malt, which was specifically constructed at a 47.3% ABV so that it wouldn't freeze. But This one here is a blend of about 20 different single malts done in American oak and sherry butts. Comes to you a little bit under $40 a bottle. And they actually found in 2007, they found several bottles of the rare old Highland malt from McKinley and found at his old base camp in Antarctica. And analysis found that the whiskey had been matured in American oak, sherry butt, and also had some Orkney peat in the malting process. So enjoy. Definitely more amber, full medium amber, moving a little past medium and a little bit there as well. Pretty soft intensity on the nose. It's not really jumping out of the glass at me. You have to kind of get into the glass to find it. And once you're in there, you've got definitely some vanilla, and then a little bit of soft peat. Definitely the peat's very integrated. There's a little bit of a caramel apple. Definitely a big hit of ginger, marmalade, and then a fresh baked bread. Kind of jumps up a little bit when it hits the palate as far as intensity. And it's a little bit hot too. It's a little bit coarse. Some dark sugar, a little bit of dried fruit, some tropical fruit as well, like a cooked pineapple or cooked mango. Leaves you with a little bit of a chocolate, sweet nuts as well, and then a little bit of smoke and very soft peat. Definitely a whiskey to introduce blended whiskey drinkers to the world of single malt, or at least blended malt scotches. The peat is very well integrated and not overwhelming and very soft. Lingers along with a little bit of smoke. The smoke is the last thing as well. Let's try it with a little water. More peat with water. Lose a little bit of those fruits, the baked fruits. But the ginger is still there. Yeah, the character, still a lot of the same characters, they just get more muted, and the peat comes out, and smoke. Now, instead of the smoke lingering, the peat's lingering. But a very subtle, very, not a very in-your-face whiskey. If I was going to give this a score for what it is and what it's trying to do for blended malt, this is not a single malt drinker. In the $35, $40 range, probably somebody branching into this category. I think it does a very good job. I would have to give it probably a 8.5 score, and then personal score. Actually, the longer it sits, the more enjoyable it is. The very subtle, long, smooth finish, even though it's peat and smoke and just a lingering bit of apple and ginger. Quite well done. I'd say for me, personal appreciation score would be probably about an 8, which for me is a pretty high score.